You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Sheri Salata. How rejection helps you get what you want with men, money, and your career. Ladies, welcome. Oh my gosh, I've been so excited for this episode because first of all, like how many people do I get to interview that literally have spent time in freaking Cedar Rapids, Iowa? Like never. So not only is my guest brilliant, but she gets the Iowa vibes. And because she's going to blow you away with everything that she has to share with you today. So you may be asking, who is it? Well, it's Sheri Salata. She is I love this, self-proclaimed transformation doula, which is, if you've ever had a baby or ever thought about it, or you watched a baby being born on TV, you totally get that. She's a professional storyteller. She's a world-class producer. She's the founder and CEO of the Support System, which is super cool. It's a private membership group for amazing women. And it's helping them create real life transformations, which is, you got to you think about it, you read about it, but you got to do it. So it's a great community. She also has Salata and Company, which is her personal development company. And they have courses. We're going to tell you a little giveaway coming, retreats around the world. And she has the most yummy, delicious memoir that I devoured in my ears called The Beautiful No and Other Tales of Trial, Transcendence, and Transformation. It's an Amazon best-selling new release and an Apple must-listen audiobook. It's also a Marni must-listen audiobook. And besides all that, Sheri's other version of her life, she spent 20 years in the land of Oprah, finishing that glorious run as the final executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show, President of Harpo Studios, and President of OWN, as captured in the cable hit series Season 25, Oprah Behind the Scenes. That's amazing, too. She also happened to work at 7-Eleven. I don't know if we'll get to talk about that. You might have to read the book to hear about that story. She spends her time today manifesting the life of her dreams, appreciating every minute of the joyride she's creating, and calling in what's next. I'm super happy to have you here.
Oh, well, I sound very fancy. And I'm just going to say, I'm not fancy. If you've read my book, you already know that, Marni. I'm not fancy at all.
You're so not fancy. And that's why I really love your work, because it doesn't matter how, and we were just talking about this, you can have a lot of fancy ass shit on the outside or be around fancy ass people. But what I love the work that you're doing is in the end, none of that freaking matters. Because it's really about coming from this place of self. And that's what I love about you. And of course, your Midwesternness.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Okay, so let's talk about, let's just go right there. So you're running one of the most giant, beloved brands literally on the planet, working with Oprah. And you have this ending that creates a beginning, and you become an entrepreneur, and you're building this new brand. What was that like when you had to completely just strip away everything that you were identified with professionally?
Well, it's such an interesting process, right? Because, for somebody else, it might be being a totally involved, dedicated, devoted mom. For lots of years. But when the thing that has defined you, and of course, you work for Oprah, that defines you in many ways. It's a free pass. It opened up so many doors, and it felt like it was more than just something on my resume. It felt like it was in my DNA. So to launch my own thing and to kind of take a look at, what am I without that? Who am I without that? And it has been, well, first of all, it's not for the faint of heart, this middle of life reckoning stuff. But here's what I come here to give testimony.
Yes.
that on the other side of it is the joyride you were dreaming of all along. That's what I'm going to say.
I love that. So there's a moment in your story. A lot of women who live this, they're like, they follow all the follows, right? Like all the big gurus, and you get to be around them. You're in Oprah land, and there's a story that you tell. I think you're like at Tony Robbins, and you're sitting in the front, and you're like, this dude better not freaking call me out.
Oh, he did. So right. So I'm sitting there next to Oprah, and I think surely he has the good sense not to shine any lights over here. We're in there's an auditorium with 5,000 people, and we were getting ready. Ultimately, we were going to do the fire walk that night. And he started talking about this woman who was so successful professionally. She had the job that everybody would poke out an eyeball for, but she just hadn't manifested anything else in her life. And I'm like, I leaned over to Oprah and I said, oh my God, he's talking about me. And she's like, no way. He's not going to call you out in front of, I go, oh my God, he's coming this way. And she's like, yes, he is. And I think what Tony could sense in that moment was that I literally, I would have just fainted dead away of shame and et cetera, et cetera. So he walked on by and then later did admit that he was talking about me. So, so that was also a bit of a reckoning. It's like, gosh, out of an arena of that 5,000 people, I'm just not going to be allowed to sail through my life playing the Oprah card. I'm going to have to, or playing the mom card, or any other labels
that we have
that any of us use to say, well, at least I did this. And, I wasn't going to be able to get away with that. And also, I would tell you that after a while, being somebody else's something just isn't enough. Even if you're Oprah something, it's just not enough. Being someone else's mother, wife, business partner, right hand, whatever it is, it's not going to be enough, because those are just labels. Those are roles we play. That real work of digging deep and figuring out who you want to be, not just what you want to do, it's calling you. It's summoning you. And when you ignore that call, here's what you want to do. Next thing you know, you're drinking too much Chardonnay at night.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're ordering a pizza that you shouldn't be eating. Next thing you know, you're kind of falling apart in your own way, however you do that. And it really is your own soul speaking to you saying, come on now, it's time.
Well, that's what's so interesting too, is that and I think there's so many people who resonate with that fact of the near misses of the universe, calling you out. How much freaking pain do we have to be in before we do this? And so in your situation, you had to really lean into that pain, because there were so many different ways that you could expertly mask it. And you were great you're a producer. So you're producing. I mean, I love the story. You're producing your mom's party. You're her final birthday party. You're producing. And then what's that moment? When you realized that you were going to have to produce your own damn life.
Yeah.
What, were you, did you break down into tears? Were you freaking out? Did you did you eat a pizza? What was that moment like when you were all of it?
All the things. I mean, what happened was I really, I ended up going into, as you know, I call it the reckoning, days of being still. It's the first time in 30 years my calendar wasn't just filled with crap that was in somebody else's agenda. And so all of a sudden sitting there and really taking a very specific, detailed, and wide and deep inventory of what I'd created so far. And it was yes, there were some real high points, but there were some real low points too. My health was a disaster. I was so burnt out. I mean, I was so burnt out they could hardly get blood out of my veins. And also there was this level of unhappiness that had taken root which really was like, you're not on purpose anymore. Like you're staying too long at the fair. What's next? What are you doing? How are you going to what is this life that you say you want? And that just launched such an interesting thing that at times felt like walking through fire. At times it felt like it was, being buried in grief for the opportunities I'd let pass, the things I hadn't done. There was a lot of pain, but even then I knew that I'm like, keep going, because on the other side is your liberation. On the other side is your real purpose. On the other side is that true life of your dreams. And I've been on the other side now for 6 years.
Aww.
And I'm tell you, I was right. It is all that and more. I have never been happier. I have never been more on purpose. Everything I've done in my whole life, it was pretty service directed,
right,
was leading up, preparing me for now. And still not everything is like totally organized. Some things are still coming into manifestation, but I'm just at the center of myself. And every single day I wake up and I know why I'm here, and I am open to direction from my higher self.
Oh, I love that. Let me ask you this. So if there's women that are listening and they're getting all the signs, like they're having the moments where Tony Robbins walks by them, right? They're just the near misses, right?
Yes.
That job that maybe you were going to quit, but then you get this amazing new job, right? Yeah. Or I know for a lot of parents, myself included, like I was going to have to deal with empty nest and then COVID hit. And I was like, yay, I get to be a mom with like, a full little nest again and everyone needs me. Yay, right? So there are these moments, but then it goes away and we have to really be courageous. What was the why or what was the mantra that you repeated to yourself when you were in the fear, when you had to go to the next level of the reckoning?
Well, it was more, listen, my hands were on my heart, like one hand over the other on my heart for hours a day. I mean, for hours a day, whether I was walking, whether I was sitting in the backyard, whether I was meditating, my hands were on my heart because I knew that was the thing I needed to reconnect to, like
love it.
my real true self. And so I would pat one hand with both of them over my heart and just be like, they're there. It's okay. They're there. It's okay. And I would take, one of the keys to that really in-depth inventory was I could only do it if I used my tenderest voice.
Oh, love it.
And of course, that's not a voice I'd practiced for 56 years. It was the harsh voice. It was the critical voice. It was the, I can't believe you. And why didn't you? And how come? And I had to override that impulse and pick out the voice that I used to speak to babies in a grocery store. And I just had to soothe myself and say, no matter what you find when you look, when you go looking behind these curtains, no matter what you find, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Because the truth is, you have no idea what kind of rut you're really in until you're out of it. You have no idea how you've hidden the truth from yourself until you turn on the lights. And then you got to deal with the stuff. You got to deal with the regret. You got to deal with the shame. You got to deal with the sadness. And when you do that, when you feel it, when you turn on the lights, when you speak of it, all of a sudden, the freedom starts to come in. The lightness starts to come in. You start to literally heal. And you say, that book was my healing.
Yeah.
Because who wants to write all that stuff?
Yeah, you're so brave. I mean, talk about living courageously. You life checked yourself and, on your manuscript.
Oh, Lord. And that's why it took me 2 years. And that's why I almost couldn't send the final draft, because I'm like, I know what that means. Listen, I worked for a famous person. I know what it means when you put your shit out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, do I really want it? Because I was a behind the scenes person. I was a private person behind the scenes. And I will tell you, on that book tour, which I didn't want to do that either, all of a sudden I could feel my own healing happen because
Oh,
it's like, well, you wrote it and now you got to go out there and people have questions and you got to answer them and it's going to be okay. And I would be like in a taxi after an event thinking, oh my God, I feel so much better. It's like the more I talk about it, the more I throw light on it, the more healed I am. And then I will sit there and I'll sign books for, to
right.
high heaven. And there's going to be people in line who are going to say, me too, me too, me too, me too. And next thing you know, we're all lifting each other up. So,
Yes. Oh
yeah.
my God. That's so beautiful. Okay. Speaking of beautiful, your book is The Beautiful No.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where you get it. You get the beautiful no. Like all the no's lead you up to this one moment. But it's really this deeper spiritual belief, which I hold and we hold on our campus, is that like, what is life like when you have your hand on your heart and you feel like the universe is conspiring for you? Like, how
Right.
is that impacting your life these days?
Well, if you if you can convince yourself that every rejection, that every betrayal, that every no that you ever have gotten is literally just pushing you in another direction so you can get to the next door to the really great thing, then you can take the 6 months you would have been depressed and grab that time back and get to living, because there is something about, like, now these days, because that happened to me and it happened in a big way. I got a big no on a job interview that I really, really wanted, and I was out of money. It was crushing. It was crushing to my spirit. And a short time after that, I get the call from the Oprah show. So everything changed for me because of that no, which is why it was so beautiful. So when you have that kind of proof, and we all do,
Yeah.
you have only to look back at your life and see the boob you didn't marry
Yeah.
that you wanted so badly, who was just a total asshole, and what your life would have been like that way. You just look back at your life, find your beautiful nose, and then you can put your hands on your heart, and no matter what happens, you can be curious when something doesn't work out the way you hoped it would. You can be curious. You can say, "Gosh, I wonder why." Oh, it's going to be so interesting to see how this unfolds, instead of taking to your bed, in despair.
Well, yeah, I've been thinking about I like metaphors, and so I've been trying to think of it like I know jellyfish is poisonous, but you know how like they have all those little like tentacles and they're just kind of floating and they're never knotted and they're never attached to anything, right?
Yes.
Right? And it's sort of like when we get what we don't want or we don't get what we want, what I hear you saying is like if you can just be in that curiosity, kind of like floating, like I wonder where the
Yeah.
water is going to take me. Do you think that you're more able to see the next opportunity if you're in that open space versus that constricted space of like, oh my God, I want to like just spend my time
Oh,
in
for
bed?
sure. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And also, I don't know about you, but I just don't want to waste any more time on that.
Yeah, hell
On
yeah.
plunging into despair of, telling myself a story like, oh, that didn't work out. I guess I'm not all that, or blah, blah, blah. I just don't want to waste any more time with that unhelpful waste of time, not managing yourself, crazy meant. I wanna instantly tune into my spiritual self and say, this is for my greatest good. I can't wait to see what is going to surprise and delight me down the road. I accept this answer because I have been helped so many times over and over and over again. I accept this answer because I'm going to be really excited and thrilled. And I don't have to lose any more time because I have no more time to waste. I want every minute to be great right up until I take my last breath as best I can. And if I'm going to have a bad day, it's a day, not a week or a month.
And how do you, when you're in that moment where you're like, oh shit, like the shit gets a little bit too real, the dial gets turned up too high. What's your favorite spiritual practice, or how do you allow yourself to feel? Because I think our listeners and people are like, how do I feel the pain and also be in the beautiful now? Like, how do you hold both those things as true?
Well, two things I'm going to tell you, two little hacks. And one comes from my good friend, Kute Blackson, who has a great book out there called The Magic of Surrender. He taught me this, and I thought this was so wise. And I've been using it in my life for about a year now, that he said, there is a grief you must allow between what you hope for and what has happened. Even if you buy into the beautiful now, and you know the universe is, you got to let yourself have a little bit of that grief. You got to release that grief. You got to have a little energy releasing cry, go to your fire pit and do a little burn ceremony, do something to release that little bit of grief. It's all those unacknowledged griefs that get us backed up sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, I'm a TM meditator. I also do a lot of Joe Dispenza's meditations. Yep. But those are, not every minute do I have 20 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes to meditate. So I love to do, a triangle breath, 5 counts in, 5 counts hold, 5 counts out. I put my hands on my heart and I do 5 rounds of triangle breath, which I think is about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I pick a little mantra like all is well, or I'm going to be okay, or I'm open to the possibilities. It takes me like less than 2.5 minutes and my energy is regulated back to center and I'm ready to go.
And it's like that. I bet, do you love Kristen Neff? Are you familiar with her work?
Okay, tell me.
Oh my God. Okay. Like if you're not, you're gonna. Her whole thing is like, she's all about self-compassion, right? She did a lot of this like first work. I first found out about her through the Hoffman process, and then Brene Brown did a bunch of stuff with her. But
I did the Hoffman process.
No, you did not.
I guess so.
Oh my God.
I'm looking her up right now.
Okay, well, here's the thing. She's got this new book out. She's talking about, she calls it fierce self-compassion, because it's that part of us that's the badass producer, the like a high achiever who's like, I am going to advocate for myself, right? Like my life matters. And then coming to that place of like that softness that you said, that voice that you use with babies in the supermarket. And I think for us, like high achieving, goal oriented, like, we'd like to be in control. We want to make shit happen. People, like there's that, we can harness that to have that moment of saying like, what am I going to do now to like get back to that place where I can be present and take back control of the only thing I control, which is myself.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. Well, listen, that was probably what was missing from my recipe for most of my life, was self-compassion. And that without that self-compassion, my way of working in the world and moving through the world just got harder and harder and harder. Like more like that masculine energy, pushing boulders uphill, making things happen, blah, blah, blah. I don't have time for this. I say my nickname was Sheri, she's so busy, Salata.
What's funny is when I coach women for dating, one of the first things I have to tell them is when they say no to a date, they always have to tell why they're so busy.
Yeah.
They're like, I'd love to, Jeff, but let me tell you, I'm slammed on Thursday with a thing, and then I have a lunch with so and so. But I'm like, no, stop talking about how so busy you are. So I love that you used to be Sheri. I'm so busy, Salata.
That's right. And there was a hardness to it.
Yeah,
that was like cracking me. It was giving the outside of my heart a hard, undelicious candy coating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It was just like crunchy, and I was easily irritated, and of course I was, because I hadn't taken care of myself for years.
Yeah, I had a client once describe it. She's like, I'm like a Tootsie Pop, right? Like I never let anyone, barely myself, have that little like sweet, like little gum in the middle. I'm
Yes.
just like, I'm like that hardcore thing. And you got to like,
Yeah.
yeah. And you got to be real patient. Like if someone's going to actually get to the inner, they have to like jump through a lot of hoops, but they're still like on trial. And I feel like when we're in that like masculine energy, it's so hard to let anyone in, including ourselves.
Well, and that's no longer the way.
Yeah.
I mean, all the patriarchal constructs are starting to just fall to dust. And so, that's why having little questions for yourself, like who says I have to feel that way? And who says that's the way? And who's, like just challenging all these archaic and outdated patriarchal constructs and understanding that the new world, the world of our dreams, the life of our dreams is created from the feminine, from the divine feminine, from flow and intuition and inspiration, and not like just pounding it out every day. And I'm happy for that.
Yeah, God, yes, absolutely. So, okay, so now you've been free for 6 years, and you built something that you're passionate about. And also you have like these old ways and old patterns of like working and striving and building. And so, because you care about what you're building now. So how, like, what's your relationship right now with work-life balance, and how are you being successful as you define it today in a way that works for you?
Well, one of my big things was because I had so much shame around the concept of work-life balance, because by those standards, I was completely unbalanced. And then I realized, I'm really not going to take, if words or phrases make me feel shame and make me feel bad about myself, I'm going to eliminate them from my vocabulary. And the truth is, nobody's ever in work-life balance, because even the concept of balance is you're out of balance and you come back in. You're out of like you're tipping over, you come back in. And so, and there's too much. It's too charged for me now. It's too much of a trigger. So what I said, okay, if that's a big hornet's nest for you, what is it that you do want? And I'm like, I want an integrated life. I want an integrated life. My work in the world is always going to be incredibly meaningful to me, because that's my core value. I'm looking for meaning, and I'm looking for expression of my real purpose. So it's always going to be overlapping with my life. So even me doing a little morning candle ceremony and meditating in the morning, I think that's part of my work.
It is. I mean, I love that. Yeah. Because
yeah, exactly.
I'm so excited for you. I love that. Because here's the thing, like when you talk to people about like, so how do you find that way where your beingness is reflected in the what you do and the how you do it? Like how do you start to get there, and what are the signals that you were listening for to realize that you were like on that divine path with your purpose and your work?
Okay, well, this is going to blow your socks off, my friend.
Woo.
So how about this? Everything that I am doing today that drives revenue into Sheri Salata, every single thing, I had no idea I was going to do it 1 year ago.
Wow, say more.
Well, I was doing, I had a lovely business with a longtime friend, and she still had her other business going on. And so I was like, okay, well, I think I'm going to do some things by myself. So last year, talk about for the first time in my life being led, allowing myself to be led. I now do a 12-week digital course twice a year. Didn't know this time last year I was going to build that. I was going to create that and download that and do that. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life. Somebody from the world of personal development came to me, who did not know me personally, and said, you need to do this. And I'm like, thank you so much. I will not be doing that. She's like, you need to do this. And finally, I got curious about my resistance, because I'm like, what are you going to be doing? I'm a keynote speaker. Well, all that's been canceled.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I will do it. I start doing that. I go, oh my God, this is, first of all, it's very, very, it's very lucrative. It's very on purpose. I love it so much. Like I said, it's my favorite thing I've ever done. So about halfway through that last April, I go, what are we going to do next? I got to start a private membership group. I launched that. I love that even more. So much fun. So I started doing that. And then I was like, I would really like to travel around Italy, but make it kind of intertwine it with my work. I just got back from Umbria and Florence with a group of people that I did a workshop with for a week. So I will tell you this right now. And every single one of those things was just quieting my mind, hands on my heart, doing my little triangle breaths. The idea would come to me, or the conversation would come, or somebody would call. And next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I'll go in that direction. And it is just lining up like jets on a runway.
I love it. I call it skiing the moguls because
Yes.
it's like, you're like, you go around that one and you just relax into it. You're like, oh, damn, here's another one. Just take it, girl. Oh, because you're following spirit, right? You're just following spirit and you're being curious rather than, and if you never ski, I apologize for this metaphor. Just pause. But you're standing there and you're like, that's too hard. That's too big. I don't know if I can do it. What if I fall, and it's like, if you stand at the top of that hill and you overthink it, you would have done any of this stuff.
Oh, I love that so much. Oh, that is true. And I could feel myself right away. Nope. And then I'm like, well, that's not helpful, that resistance. Why don't you just, and then I just take one step after another. And then I literally, somebody said, well, so everything that you're doing in your company now. And I'm like, I didn't know 1 year ago I would be doing one of these things. And so I just say, because I just turned 62.
No.
Yes.
You look amazing.
So thank you. So I just say, what if I can demonstrate to myself at 62 years old that I could completely transform my life or any area of my life in less than a year? What am I going to do next? I can't even imagine.
Well, I was just saying, and first of all, did menopause not happen to your hair? Because your hair is like beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't have any trouble with hair.
Oh my God.
That's never been my thing. It's usually having to lose weight.
Okay, I'm just like, oh my God, what drugs are you taking to have that gorgeous mane of hair?
That is hilarious.
Oh my God, we all want what we can't have. Okay, so let's talk about what are you doing? Like, what is the universe? Do you have any sneaking suspicions? Like any whispers that are coming around the corner? What do you got?
Because you know what? I am Googling you right now all over the place. And I'm like, 5 years as well. Here's what I think. I think 2022, I'm going to make my love match.
Okay, great.
And for the first time, I think I might even dip my feet into the online pool.
Because in your book, you were like, no, I'm not doing it. And I was chopping onions in my kitchen, and I was like, Sheri, we need to talk.
I know. Oh, please. You and Ariel Ford coming at me.
I know. That's so
telling
funny.
me that's the way. Well, listen, one of my best friends, I just officiated at her wedding. And she met him on Hinge a year ago, year and a half ago.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's happening.
I believe it. You're like totally in flow.
Yeah.
And
so that's next.
That's so great. Well, I'm super, super excited for you. So you were going to give, I always like to ask my guests, if you were going to give some wise words of wisdom to that woman who says, well, Sheri's just different because she blah, 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 blah. Like this doesn't apply to me. I have to work. I have to do this corporate job because there's no man who's going to take care of me at the end, blah, blah, blah. What do you say to that lovely listener?
I say to you, my dear, lovely listener friend, I have done the very same. I've made the same excuses. I could justify from here to there why I would not advocate for my own most amazing wild ass life and happiness. And all I can say is take a page out of my book and set yourself free. Set yourself free at first in your own mind about what's possible for yourself. Just stir the dream pot a little bit and see what comes up, and just see, you start feeling hopeful. You start feeling your energy rises. You start feeling like, wow, maybe there are more possibilities for me. Then tune in to this divine feminine through making time for yourself, through doing some breath work and seeing what possibilities come your way. Because all I can tell you is it is freaking fantastic on the other side. And how that has changed for me. Listen, like I said, I grew up the old-fashioned way. I thought at 60 I'd be in a nursing home when I was 16. But I mean, you retire, then you get a camper, you drive around, or you go on some cruises or something. And now I see that I am going to be creating and innovating and in my purpose and meeting new people and making new friends and having new conversations and expanding and rising until my very damn last breath.
I love that.
And then I'm going to say what's next.
I love that. I interviewed Rabbi Steve Leder in his book, The Beauty of What Remains. And I just keep saying on every show because it's just so powerful for what you said. He was like, I want to head the last round to my casket. He's like home base. I want to slide in there. I want to be bruised and battered because I tried everything. My heart is broken. I lived this full life and I'm not stopping until that moment when I slide in there. And I just feel your joy. And it's just so palpable and it's contagious. And I am so excited for you. And ladies, you listen, give yourself a gift. You're like, I don't read. I don't listen to books. Listen to read the first chapter, listen to the first chapter of Sheri's book, and you'll be like, oh shit, that's me. And you won't be able to put it down. You have a little gift. It's not even little, it's massive. It's like a 5-day workshop. Do you have
a 5-day workshop? The worksheets, there's workbooks, there's all kinds of things that come with it. It's totally free. It's www.sheri1rsalata.com/free workshop.
I love it. And we'll have a link to the show notes. And for those of you who are in the car, don't try and remember that right now. Just pull over, hit rewind, write down a little piece of paper, put it in your phone. And thank you so much for being here, Sheri. You're, like I said, your message is so important and it's so inspiring. And I just really, really appreciate getting to spend time with you.
Same. I just loved our conversation. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And ladies, whatever you do, I did it. Sheri did it. Life check yourself. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.